Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas, on Wednesday, October the 23rd, and welcome to our commentary. Just a quick note: we did record today, about an hour or so ago, our podcast with our friend Bill Katz, the editor of Urgent Agenda. That audio is available here on Twitter, if you follow me on Twitter, or on my blog as well. So it was a very good review. We looked at a lot of issues about the campaign and some of the other issues going on in the world. And on that, I also want to tell you that I have a post over at the American Thinker today, Wednesday, and it's about Kamala Harris and how many, or Vice President Harris, I should say, how many Democrats running in competitive elections are sort of kind of distancing themselves, if you will, from Kamala Harris. They don't want to be real close to her. It's not one of those things where, they don't want her campaigning for them in Wisconsin or in Pennsylvania or in some of these other more competitive states. They're not running against her, but they're certainly not running with her, which is usually a sign that these are very competitive campaigns and Kamala Harris is not helping. If Kamala Harris is helping you, then you would invite her to campaign. But she's not helping you, obviously. You want to keep a distance. So check out the post. It's over at the American Thinker. It's on the right-hand side. And the title of the post is If You Know Kamala Like We Know Kamala. It's kind of the title of the post. It's a bit of remember that song, If You Know Susie Like We Know Susie? It's kind of an old Broadway show back many, whatever it was. I think it's 100 years old, actually, that song, if I remember correctly. But anyway, check it out. If you know Kamala like we know Kamala, it's a post over at the American Thinker. Well, here we go again. We got Hitler once again. We're talking about Hitler again. And all of this apparently got started in this Atlantic article that, by coincidence, comes out 10, 12 days before the election. If you remember back in 2020, there was also an article by the same magazine, same people, who put out this article. That was 2 weeks before the election back then, about the same time. And that article back in 2020 was that Donald Trump was making fun or was ridiculing or just making fun of some of the Americans who were buried in the graves, the military cemetery in France, and calling them suckers and all this kind of stuff. Well, that didn't really work that well back then. But now, of course, we have another one, same people. And this time, apparently, he's saying something very bad about a young American soldier. Again, they want to use these articles to attack Trump by saying stuff like, well, he doesn't like the military or whatever. He doesn't respect the military. Of course, the problem with that argument is that Trump was already president of the United States, and he always showed great respect for the military. So, I mean, this idea that somehow all of a sudden this information was hiding for 5 years, and now all of a sudden they bring it up 10 days before the election at a time when I think you can argue that the Kamala Harris campaign is not moving in the right direction. I'm not saying she's going to lose, but I guarantee you that this is not where they thought they were going to be. They thought they would be better off today with Kamala Harris. So I think it's, again, it's a dirty tactic, and I'm sure there's another one coming. And, you got to get ready for this. Is it going to matter? No, not going to matter, because everybody knows what this is all about. This is a dirty tactic, and that's all that it is. And another thing, too, that I find fascinating, once again, we have stories of this magnitude trying to discredit a campaign by using anonymous sources. And I have a problem with that. I think that if you're going to go after the president of the United States and accuse the president of the United States to say something like this, I think you should have the guts to come public and say, I was there and he told me about it. I was there and I listened to it. It never happens. And again, it's attacking President Trump with anonymous sources. I don't think it's going to work. It didn't 4 years ago. Nothing they've thrown at President Trump sticks. And it's because I think people are just fed up with this kind of yeah, this kind of politics. I mean, it's not helpful for the country. It doesn't do anything. And what can I tell you? What can I tell you? It's not going to hurt President Trump that much. I can tell you. But I think it is ironic that, they go into this much emphasis on a story in Atlantic magazine about something that he said 5 years ago or something like that. A story, by the way, the family of this soldier came out and denied this, came out and actually supported President Trump. But, you know, they have a story in the Daily Mail about the so-called second gentleman and his behavior with women and how he behaved in his own office with women. They have that story, but apparently that's not good enough. But if it's about Trump, then they jump on the story. I can only tell my friends in journalism one quick thing. Don't destroy the integrity of journalism because you want to destroy Trump. Because there's going to be a day after Trump. You're going to have to come back after Trump, whether he wins or loses. You're going to have to come back after Trump and try to go after the viewers or the listeners that you're losing by practicing this kind of journalism. And I don't think it's going to be easy to win these people back after they watch journalism of this kind. Well, I've got a post coming out tomorrow, and I got into a lot of detail about this with my friend Bill Katz in today's podcast. But North Korea is apparently sending 10,000 troops to the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Now, that changes everything because now all of a sudden you got 10,000 fresh troops. Obviously, that's not something that Ukraine is going to be ready for. But it also makes the Ukraine-Russia problem more of an international problem. Now, what exactly is North Korea looking for here? I'm not sure. My guess is that they're looking for money. They're looking for military assistance. North Korea obviously would love to improve its technology, nuclear technology or military technology. And this might be a good way to do it by basically providing soldiers so that they get paid with Russian military technology or whatever. Maybe military assistance, economic assistance. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. I'm sure that the White House is trying to figure out what this is all about. But the bottom line is that they're sending troops into a conflict, and they're taking a regional conflict and they're making it international. And that's something that everybody should be very concerned about, because if Ukraine, there's 10,000 soldiers on the other side now all of a sudden. Ukraine doesn't have 10,000 soldiers. So where are they going to get them from? Are they going to lose everything? I mean, are they going to get overthrown by these soldiers? I mean, it's a big question. Are they going to come to the West and say, hey, you got to help us? We need troops. You got to help us. And who's going to provide these troops? I mean, who's got soldiers other than the United States? And we are stretched out pretty bad as it is right now. So it's just a bad situation, but it's another indication that, frankly, nobody fears President Biden. Nobody's concerned about backlash. And, as long as President Biden is in the White House, I guess a lot of the adversaries feel like this is their moment to go around and do whatever they have to do. I just don't, I don't know how else to tell you about this, but it's a very bad situation to have North Korean troops involved, because that changes the balance, changes the military balance a little bit, maybe in favor of Russia. Now, I've also heard that the Russians have taken some heavy losses, which is true, and Ukraine has also taken some heavy losses. So, obviously, if you're sending 10,000 troops to Russia, that's going to help Russia, offset some of those terrible losses that they've offered or they lost. Bottom line is, this is nasty. This is bad. This is bad for the region, and this is bad ultimately for the United States, because we're supporting Ukraine. And at what point does Ukraine say, hey, I need more money or I need soldiers? NATO doesn't have any soldiers. They may have some, but who's going to send them? I don't see any great appetite anywhere for sending troops to help Ukraine. Politically, I don't see that in the United States either. So anyway, it's one of those stories that will get more complicated. But once again, we see the importance of having somebody in the White House who understands these issues, who understands what's happening in the world, and understands the risk right now that we have in the world with these crazy adversaries running around and doing a lot of crazy things. Thank you for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Have a good day, everybody.